Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday the 29th of September 2013. Supplemental, only been a week since the last cast edition.
Doesn't feel like it.
Joining me today is Zachary Burgess.
Doesn't feel like it.
And Ron Kemp.
Why don't you feel like it?
That's what I said.
Are you not infused?
That's not what I said.
It's not that kind of
No.
don't feel like. I don't feel like doing this right now.
He says he doesn't feel like a week since the last one.
Well, yeah, it was just like within the context of saying it the second time. It's just like Zachary Burgess doesn't feel like it.
Well, that would mean something different.
You don't
I don't
feel
feel like me at the moment for some reason.
I'm having an out of body experience.
Doesn't feel like it.
Who would you feel like if given the choice?
What?
That was a weird question. Is it like do you just get the sensation of whatever they're doing right now, and you just stay where you are?
Yeah, sure, why not? It's like, say you had no control over what was happening to them at the time, but you could feel what they were feeling. Who would you choose to?
That doesn't actually really give you very many good options,
No.
apart from the obvious one.
What, Mr. T?
No, I meant the obvious one thing that you'd want someone else to be doing while you were feeling it.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Because everything else would just be kind of boring. It's like, oh, it must be windy where they are.
I don't know.
Would you want to be like...
If you pick someone who was like a restaurant critic?
A restaurant
you might get lots of tasty taste that you wouldn't have to pay for.
I guess, but does taste count?
As how you
As
feel.
feeling like it.
Feel,
Maybe.
yeah, I guess.
Maybe.
If we're going for all sensations, then yeah. Because you could, especially if it'd be even better if you could like jump from consciousness to consciousness. Just go to a restaurant and just jump between everyone in there and just stay
Taste
there
everything.
tasting everything. And then when you're done with that, you just jump to a nearby restaurant across the street and go try that as well.
But then you'd actually have to eat something at some point for actual nutritional
That's
content.
true. That's true.
But that depends on how this process actually works. There's like, are you in some kind of animus or... Or like...
How do they feed Desmond when he's in the animus? Does he have to keep
Does he ever
taking
really
breaks?
stay long enough in there for that to
Maybe
matter?
not. Maybe not.
Well, they do say he's getting fat, don't they? And
Yeah.
it's like...
That's just because he's
is
sitting
he-
on his ass, right?
I guess. But
That's
then
just
how
a-
is he eating? Is he coming out of it?
To eat,
Yeah.
presumably.
Presumably he comes out of it when we come out of it.
Yeah.
Like, when you stop playing.
At least in the first game, it was all explicit, wasn't it?
But that doesn't make sense in... Revelations.
Nothing makes sense. The further you go into Assassin's Creed,
No, that doesn't make sense in Revelations because he doesn't wake up in Revelations.
No, so he must be being fed through achieving that.
Yeah.
Or there's like time dilation, where it's like you only stay in the animus for like a minute and it counts as like a year.
Yeah, that's true. That could be.
Well, it's several days, isn't it, across the course of Assassin's Creed 1 and 2.
Right.
Their story takes place over several real-world days. Or future days.
Right.
Future days might be longer or shorter for some reason.
For some strange reason.
Oh, I have to take all those keys out of my pockets.
Shink, shink.
Future Desmond days. That's what they'd be called. Like, a day in the future, like if the time scale changes, we'll just call them Desmonds.
Is it still Desmond in
Like the moon or something.
The moots.
Do we know? I guess I don't know what happens in 3, but I don't know if it's still Desmond in Black Flag. Probably not.
They were sort of suggesting that it wasn't.
Right, fair
That they
enough.
were going to take a tangent.
Okay.
The
God.
tangent on top of all their...
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they haven't like finished off any of the Desmond story yet, as far as I know.
Oh, God.
So it's like, so in 4, it's like let's just make this more complicated. Let's add another layer of weirdness.
I don't really care about the. I used to care, but now I no longer care about the modern world.
I no
story
longer
of
care about
Creed.
Assassin's Creed. I don't.
Yeah, probably
It's
me
like
too.
they're probably still good games. I just
Some of the tech in the new one looks quite interesting. It just seems like a bit like, well, we've got this pirate setting, so we should probably do like
boats.
nice weather effects and like nice plant effects.
Well, they'll probably be in the
vegetation.
Caribbean, won't they? So
Well, exactly. So some of that stuff looked quite cool in the tech demos that I saw, but it is next gen, so it ought to look decent. Yeah.
yeah, Assassin's Creed.
Speaking of sort of related topics to both Assassin's Creed and the thing we were talking about before that, I read some ridiculous sci-fi story where it was like the Matrix, you know, they were like jacking into your brain and then like you were going into a computer program or whatever.
Yeah.
But they very specifically called out like it wasn't jacking in, it was like nano machines or whatever.
Yeah.
Would just
In your brain.
be
In your bloodstream.
in your brainstem and would just alter the sensors.
Right.
Which would alter your perception. I was like, does that actually work? So I had to go on Wikipedia and look it up. It's like, turns out, no, because your eye, your sight, and your sense of smell goes directly into the brain. It doesn't go through the brainstem.
Via the brainstem, yeah.
So it's like, you'd have to wear an Oculus Rift and like a smell-o-vision thing, but then it would work.
But surely you could get nanomachines wherever they needed to go.
Yeah, I
they-
guess
they
in
just
theory.
intercept
It's just that
the-
they said like the brainstem.
brainstem.
It's like they're all in the brainstem.
Yeah, the stem isn't where much goes on apart from the basic functions, right, of motor control.
Well,
and stuff, isn't
and
it?
just being the bit that everything goes through.
Yeah, but to the rest of the body.
Yeah.
But not, yeah, like you say, not the key ones, like the eyes and the nose.
But only sight and smell. Everything else on your face still goes through the brainstem somehow,
okay.
which is weird.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, yeah, if you intercepted like your motor functions at the brainstem, then you could tell your limbs not to do that thing, but
Yeah.
still like give you the perception that they're doing something.
Yeah, that's
You know,
true, yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that
It's-
you'd have to then have something communicating to your ocular nerve. What's the proper word for that? Is
Yeah,
it ocular
sure.
nerve?
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
Oculus.
Optic nerve.
Optic nerve, that's it, yeah. And you'd have something. They'd have those nanomachines in the brainstem that were doing that. Would have to communicate with the optic nerve nanomachines to make it so you could see yourself still doing. But then that might all be bollocks anyway, because you might not actually have to see it, because we dream fairly vividly in theory. So if you could
In theory.
tap into that same.
Probably
But then where does
easiest
that
go,
come from? It's
but-
like if
Yeah,
you're
the
dreaming of
nanomachines would
something.
have to be working in that, wherever that is that we put together an image of something.
You're probably better off going to the optic nerve rather than wherever you actually form images.
Yeah.
Do you know, by that logic, the Matrix probably doesn't work, does it? Unless you're in a dreamlike state there. But that, because that thing's basically just a giant spike that goes into your.
Yeah, that's
How the fuck that
yeah,
works.
no one knows how that works.
Because that probably doesn't work either.
I guess
by that logic.
the spike isn't necessarily the bit that's doing the interfacing. It's like the port is probably interfacing with the nerves. The spike is just like a connector.
A really big one.
It's that's just the bit that holds it, pretty much, and makes an electronical connection. And then the actual port that's in your head probably has more detailed connections that attach it to the actual nerves.
Who knows? I think the nanomachine thing is more legit than,
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
the Matrix
It
thing.
was surprisingly legit until I went and looked it up, and then I was like, no, it's science!
But yeah,
Show you
I'm
guys!
sure you could get nanomachines wherever they needed to be. Because they're so tiny, you could get them through the bloodstream to wherever.
They're narrow.
It's a
Although there is the blood-brain barrier thing, so you'd have to get them past that if you want to be actually...
They'd have to disguise themselves
But
as
they're
certain
nanos,
proteins.
but they're nano, so it's always...
When they have to describe themselves as certain proteins and then be able to.
maybe, to get through the barrier.
Yeah.
The firewall of brainage.
Yeah.
Or they could just make a temporary hole. You know.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure nanomachines do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, anyway. Mysterious sci-fi...
Got a nano blowtorch.
So
So,
let's
yes.
actually get on with this podcast, because apparently we need to... There's a lot of stuff, and maybe we don't want to make this as long as a normal one.
Yeah, this is like a supplementary, because I might not be around next week because I'm moving.
But also, stuff.
Stuff has been going on, so shall we start with the news being that Rob has been on a trip?
I went to the EuroGamer Expo
Oh yeah.
in Earls Court, London. And that's how everyone talks down there, naturally.
Obviously.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty entertaining day. It's like I probably needed more than a day.
Well, you did waste a bunch of time by going and seeing things that were totally unnecessary to see.
Well, kinda. But I was trying to like play the queue game because I'm not a big fan of queuing all day. And like, although some of the big things would have been there, had I gone to see the big things, I would have seen very little else.
Yep.
So I tried to. I made an executive decision to go quantity over quality, perhaps. And in one case particularly was my downfall. So big caveat, I haven't actually had any hands-on time with an actual PS4.
Right.
Which I kind of really wanted to do, but they closed the queue somewhat early to the stand.
Okay.
So by the time we thought, okay, now's an appropriate time to do this, we've got everything that we needed to do. The queue's looking pretty good. Let's go to it. They shut it. So it's like, great. You bastards. The Sony stand was kind of a weird thing. Like, most of the other stands was like, you queue to see the one thing that you want to see and then you move on. But the Sony booth was kind of strange because you queue to get into the Sony booth. It's
then
like
you
the whole
saw
booth,
everything.
and then you can
Yeah.
do what you want in there.
Right.
It's sort of like a one-in, one-out system.
Yeah.
So you could stay there as long as you wanted, it seems. But it was kind of low-walled, so I could sort of peer over and see some of it in action. And Kippers, who was with us, did actually get to try some of the PS4 stuff, so I will relay his thoughts now.
Okay.
So quickly get your consciousness into his body and just make him talk while you're
now. It's fine, I've got the nanomachines. So, Driveclub, and this was one of the ones I could peer over and see myself, appears very meh.
Well, what a surprise.
Not just... I mean, it doesn't really look the part. It looks like it could run on a PS3, honestly.
Yep.
And it was running at 30 frames per second, and according to Kippers, the driving mechanics don't feel very tight. I mean, it's quite hard. He was saying, like, it's kind of...
Excuse me.
It's kind of difficult to drive, but not in a realistic feeling way. And it's... Yeah, basically he just didn't like the way it handled.
Yeah. I didn't have high hopes for Driveclub.
No.
But who did?
Well, that reveal was kind of dumb in the first place. Is it like British guy getting way too enthusiastic about cars? I'm not sure
I
really.
love cars.
Oh, we love cars. It's like, doesn't everyone? Go talk to the GT guys. They sound proper passionate about it. You just sound like a geezer.
I don't think he quite had that ridiculous accent.
No, but it was a bit stand out across the rest of the talk. Anyway, regardless. The only other thing I could really see from where I was a bit of Resogun, which is like, it's one of their downloadable titles and looks like it's bullet hell, but from both directions. I think kind of Defender style control.
Well, actually, just a Defender, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
It seems to have almost the same mechanics, like picking things up off the floor and all that.
It did look a little bit like that. It's very pretty.
Well, I'm glad we've reached the new generation so we can play Defender.
Yeah, exactly. Stealing our idea that we stole off someone else.
Yeah, Defender.
We're like the middle of that, really. It's like, has anyone else really remade the original Defender since us?
Does Choplifter count? It's sort of a similar game, isn't it?
Yeah, sort of.
So that kind of came back, didn't it? No one really cared.
Our game wasn't that much like Defender because it didn't have like base.
We didn't have
That's true.
we didn't have the dudes.
We didn't actually have anything that you had to defend.
No. So we changed the game mechanics completely into something else.
It was more like
it was combo trading.
R type or something. No, is that right? No. Yeah. Anyway,
Sort of. It was Defender, just with no guys to save.
Yeah.
That's why it was called Defend.
Defend.
There was no defending. There was defending.
Yeah, to end the death.
And he didn't really end death either. You sort of caused it.
Yeah, but they were threatening.
They were the ones causing death, and you were stopping them from causing the death.
We were ending the death.
Exactly. Defender.
X. Stupid bloody game.
Yeah, it was
Really.
fighting those crabs. Anyway, no one will know what the hell that's about. So,
We still need to do a video of that stuff at some point. Zach and I will just run through all the old collision
if
software
you could even
stuff.
get the original Defender to work,
We sort of did, didn't we?
I'm pretty sure we got that.
Or did it crash? Okay, anyway.
Might still be able to vitalise it.
Yeah, maybe.
well, my version was
They're still
vitalised, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that was pretty much all I saw first hand of the PS4 stuff. The rest of it was kind of hard to see from where I was. But I did play a bit of Need for Speed Rivals on what I think was a PS4 dev kit running on a PC.
With a PS4
With
controller?
a PS4 controller.
Oh, that's close enough.
And that controller is nice.
Sweet.
It is really nice.
Did anyone use the touch thing for anything?
No. Not that I saw.
Cool.
Not that I saw. There was no use of the touch thing at all. They were showing some... like PlayStation were showing some demos, the ones that we've seen online before, of the camera stuff, where supposedly they were trying to like show off, oh, here's what all the controller can do. I didn't see any live demos of that. They just had videos running on screens.
Yeah.
Sort of doing all that sort of AR-y type stuff.
Yep.
That we've all seen before. But no, I didn't see any games using it. And I didn't see games using 6-axis like on the PS4 either, or the microphone, or the speaker. So basically, any of the new features I haven't seen used yet, other than the fact that it has a blue bar on it. You know, that's Actually, that's not strictly true. I did see Watchdogs being played on a PS4 live,
Cool.
and they weren't using any of the features either. But I did see that on a PS4, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it was let's talk about go back to Need for Speed Rivals. So that controller is super nice. Those sticks feel proper now. It's like I can't.
Would you be happy playing Call of Duty on that thing?
You know what? Yeah, it's a real comfortable piece of kit. Like much more so than the problem. It's finally a worthwhile update to the PlayStation design.
Cool.
I didn't have a problem with the sticks being in the middle.
Great.
They felt okay.
Great.
This time round, and the dimples on the sticks make a massive difference.
Right.
Like just I never quite liked how my thumbs had a tendency of falling off the sticks on occasion if I clenched or something. It was but yeah, they felt real nice. The triggers have the analog triggers are a bit heavier, which I thought again is kind of nicer because I always felt a bit loose and a bit weird. I don't know on the.
Well, it was the angle on the PS3 one.
Yeah,
you weren't really pulling it in; you were like tipping it up.
Yeah. You're kind of tilting it. The angle is a lot better. I would still say the triggers probably still aren't as good as the Xbox ones, partly out of the design, but they're better.
Cool.
The D-pad is real nice. Quite clicky.
Cool.
I was trying to say try to explain it down before. The feel of it doesn't. It's kind of a bit like you're having to push through some sort of weird membrane almost on the PS3 ones, isn't it? They kind of feel a bit smushy, whereas now there's a very definite sort of moment, a very sharp feeling moment. Yeah, when you know it's alright, it's depressed now. This is going to be active, and I think that is much better. Although it has still got the 4 sort of separated bits to it, so it's as you know. So it may still be a thumb terror in terms of D-pad design.
Plus,
as opposed to the Plus from
Ninty,
and now Xbox. I thought it was a real nice controller. Felt good. Wasn't so happy with Need for Speed. I'm not sure I get what you're going to be doing in that game. So the demo was like a 10-minute. You get dumped into the world as either a cop or a racer. I was a cop.
Right.
Go do stuff. And as far as I can tell, it may have just been the mode, but I don't know what they're going for. And in the conferences they were trying to say, things just sort of you join races kind of ad hoc, and you join as a cops. You could join in a pursuit of those races and stuff like that. It might have been just the demo setup being a bit crap, but it just felt like you were driving around. Occasionally there'd be a racer, you could bust him. Oh look, there's somewhere where you can do a long jump. Let's go try that. There are no real objectives. Just like, I'm driving around and there happens to be something I can potentially sort of do while I'm just milling about as a cop. The demo didn't really explain its structure very well. And while it was quite satisfying to make 180 turns with the handbrake, actually driving is pretty hard, I thought, in that game. It doesn't have the Need for Speed Hot Pursuit crazy drift system, where you can hold ridiculous drifts, sort of Mario Kart style, in a way. It doesn't have that. They've gone for a more realistic driving model, but I found that kind of difficult. I sort of went into it thinking I could do things that I couldn't, and it's probably fine. It's probably something you can get used to, but it was a little different and a little a little bit hard to get used to. I wasn't driving well, let's put it that way, by the end of this demo. And so in terms of the detail, it is definitely it's not something that the current gen could really handle. The car detail was definitely much, much higher than what you'd see on the current gen. There was still the odd case of when it liked to zoom in on the cars. If you sat still for long enough, it would change to just do one of those Forza style panning cameras.
Yeah.
Around looking at bits of the car in detail. Which is kind of okay. And then you started the engine and it would go and it would sort of swoop back to the normal game perspective.
Position,
But as it was doing that, you could see some areas of the car that aren't quite so good as the rest of it, like the odd dodgy texture or the odd the odd polygon out of place, that kind of stuff. So it wasn't quite as good as I think you would expect from a next-gen game, but weather effects are real nice.
Cool.
The crashes basically looked like Burnout crashes. That physics engine is still the same.
Great.
Well, no, that's not necessarily great. It's sort of janky at times. Like if you get caught on, the sort of crash where you got caught on a crash side barrier,
yeah,
and you'd sort of like wobble around a bit or be sort of weirdly pivoting on it, and so that stuff still happens.
But when you say it's like Burnout, is it like the game that we played on Origin? Is it bad like that, or is it more like actual Burnout?
No, it's more like it's more like Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Boo.
In terms of it's quite a lot like that in terms of its design, actually. But I don't really have I didn't actually get my hands on a controller set, so maybe it feels like Most Wanted in terms of the actual control.
Yeah, probably.
But I'd be interested to see how the structure for that turns out, because as it stood, it felt like the game would be nothing more than a time killer. Something you turn on, just fudge around in for a bit until you figure out something better to do.
Right.
So, plus that demo was pretty glitchy. Like, once it was running, it was fine, but they were having a lot of problems on that stand.
Yeah.
Like, they had to restart a whole bank of machines at one point, and, they're all PCs, so that took a while. Quite frequently, some of the demo, they have you connected in, like, batches of 4. On the row I was on, one of the systems was permanently dead, so it was only a row of 3 people in this lobby. Mm-hmm. And in one of the games, one of those devices didn't connect, so they didn't join the game until the next one started. So yeah, the current build seems a bit janky in terms of networking, but as I say, it was running in this dev environment, so it must be pretty early build. They were probably there early. So Eddie went and played some, going off on different strokes. Eddie went and played the PS3 version of PES 2014.
Oh yeah.
Thought it was good, apart from visually. I don't think they finished it yet.
Right, yeah, fair enough.
There's some stuff that looks real bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's something as simple, right, as the pitch in a game of football.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Well, you do kind of need a pitch, yeah.
Yeah. And you've got those markings on the floor, these white lines, these very sharp white lines.
Define where the pitch is.
That tells you what you can and can't do on a football pitch and where the various boundaries are. On PES 2014, I think as far back as FIFA 98, you could say that's not really been a problem. They've managed to get the sharpness of those white lines just right.
Yeah.
In this version of PES 2014, the circle in the middle of the field and the D on the thing was a shit texture. Like, really, really shit texture that you could sort of see, like, super filtering on it and like stuff like that. It's like, why have you done that? That's like possibly the easiest thing in this game to get right. You must have gotten it right for several years in a row that you've been making PES now.
It's like, how could that even just be that one bit? It's like, what
well, presumably because, like, the straight lines probably looked okay because, the way the texture might have been orientated for the line, it might have just, worked out. But
if you're going to texture a football pitch, wouldn't you just make it one big fucking texture?
Well, I don't know, or would you? That's probably quite inefficient, because now that they render grass and stuff
yeah,
like
I guess.
That probably wouldn't work so great, but it was just weird. It's like, why of all this, like, something you've been getting right for years, is that so bad?
Well, if they're at the point where they're rendering grass, they'd be doing it properly and just making it
white-coloured grass.
White-coloured, yeah.
Or presumably they use a texture map to overlay over the top of just the whole grass, like, rather than texturing each blade.
They wouldn't need the texture, it'd just be like a colour filter.
Yeah, something, I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those stupid things that should be simple. And like they should have got right, but they didn't.
Isn't PES 14 out?
I don't know.
Because FIFA 14's out.
FIFA 14's out. Yeah, maybe it's soon. I don't know. I'm not sure it is. But if it is out,
I hope they fix that.
Yeah, please. Let's hope they've
Helps that was an old build.
Yeah. But other than that, Eddie was saying that it seems to play pretty well. It feels pretty good to actually do. But he wasn't so sure about the new menus you use if you really want to go in depth and organise your team, because he's into that stuff. So the guy he was playing against was kind of into that as well. So they both fudged around in the menu for about as long as they played the actual football. And as far as I can tell, yeah, he was saying that's kind of a slow interface to use. A bit. They could have done a lot to make that a bit quicker. So not so good.
Well, typical Japanese versus Western menu design, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it does have a lot of that sort of classicness to it.
FF7's got pretty nice slick menus, though.
F7?
Yeah, they're ridiculous.
Really?
I don't know about that.
No, they're pretty. Some of the materia menus are
With
pretty...
like random menu options where you have to back out of. You go into a menu and it auto selects a thing, but then you have to back out of that selection to go to another different menu option that you virtually never use. Or like,
That's what it's all about.
if you want to reorder your line, why don't you go to a very specific order option, which then when you push the button, shift their portrait to
Oh,
the
no,
left
that's
or
too
right.
logical.
Well, it's like the check and arrange buttons are a bit weirdly placed as well. They're kind of in the middle of all this other stuff. It's like
The whole game is menus.
they got it. I think they got it right after FF7. FF7's is just a bit.
Well, I
of a
don't know,
mess.
because FF8, the junction
FF8
menu was like
I
not
know.
the easiest thing ever.
No, it was complex, but it sort of made sense. Unlike there's just those stupid check and arrange buttons in the wrong place, and the button combos you needed to actually do stuff weren't nearly as awkward as they are in FF7. Anyway.
Yes, it's like cancel and menu removing your material is the classic
Yeah.
problem.
You try and
menu button.
We do this so many times on the videos. Though it's like we're just trying to exit out of this menu, and you push the button. And it's like, oh shit! I've just removed the material.
Oh, classic.
Better put it back on.
Well, still not as bad as the frickin' what's the car game? Goddamn menus with the smooth jazz.
Oh, GT.
GT, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're still pretty bad. Let's hope they sort that out for GT6. Smooth jazz. Well, it's not even smooth jazz. It's just shit jazz. Dang-a-dang-tang. Yes, what else did we do? I'm trying to go through sort of like the less interesting stuff first. Like,
Trying to avoid some of the less interesting stuff, or be very brief. Let's get this shit on the road.
all right,
Shit on the road.
This is all new stuff. You didn't see any of it. Shut up.
Pez is important information.
It is to people who play football. I'm just reporting on everything we did. Well, on that front, Eddie and I played Injustice, which was there for some reason.
Definitely not important.
Yeah, I can't remember what I think we played the Xbox version. I don't know why we played it. I don't know why it was even there. Really,
No.
they allocated quite a lot of space to it.
Blah.
I guess
It seems
they. I don't know if they're done or whether they're still making DLC. So there's that.
They probably are still making DLC, but that game seems cool. It's kind of fun.
It's just Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, some of it plays a little differently for Mortal Kombat, but it feels a bit different. But yeah, it seems fun. We had fun with that. Saw the Final Fantasy X HD remake in action. Actually looks really nice. I think they've done a damn good job on that. It's enough of the models and enough of the effects and enough of the. I think they've upscaled the video as well, or at least re-rendered it or something. But all of that looked pretty. It looked good enough to pass as a modern game. So kudos there. But that was sat right next to Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns, which looks like Final Fantasy 13.
What a surprise.
They haven't really changed much of the aesthetic.
My brother did the website for that thing.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Really is.
And for Thief, that's
Yeah.
the most recent one.
Yeah,
Which
so
isn't out by a long shot, I presume.
that's a long way away.
Don't know why they bother. Anyway.
But presumably they need some kind of coming soon page, or what we know about this so far. Hype page.
It's just a ridiculous, here's the world kind of ridiculous show-off parallax thing that has no actual information you actually need, which really frustrated my brother.
No.
It's like, people want to know when it comes out and what platform it's on, and you can't find it anywhere in this crazy-ass thing with all this art and animation and crap.
That's pretty much how most of these game pages work. The official pages are always terrible.
That's what's so depressing. Anyway.
So yeah, Lightning Returns looked like they've mixed up the fighting engine again. So now it's more real-time fighting. So you don't necessarily have total control over it, but when you sort of do it as in it presents you with a list of 4 commands in your stance, and you can swap stances with the bumpers. But then when you press to do a certain move, it activates that move immediately. You don't queue up a sequence like you do in turns and have to wait for a bar to fill. It just seems to activate as soon as you press the button, that kind of stuff. So it's a bit more real time. And they had some kind of boosting system that they called the overclock bar, that I didn't really pay enough attention to figure out how exactly it worked.
Okay.
What you do is you hit square a lot while the GF sequence is going.
Yeah. Push the button that's on screen when that symbol is there, or not there, as it was in my case. But yeah, so that looked okay, but you can't really judge it from just the small demo they had. There was a bit of controversy that came up this week regarding that, though. With supposedly the Japanese devs they got asked an awkward question by someone while they were doing a panel, and they were like, and this question was, did Lightning's boobs get bigger? And they were like, and they basically turned around and were like, yeah, we want to make them bigger.
Right.
Like, for no reason at all. And they were just like, well, why are they doing that?
Great.
Changing your character for no reason at all. Typical Japanese, I guess. But
She could just be wearing a bra. I mean, come on.
yeah.
Not that don't have to explain it that hard.
No, but they just sort of went, well, yeah, we made it bigger.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of dumb. What else did they have? Warner Brothers was showing off Lego Marvel thing, which looks like a Lego game.
Yep.
Nothing new there, as far as I can tell. Just looks like a Lego game. What else did I see? Games. Now, I played a bit of the Batman game on Vita. I forget what it was called. Yeah, I'm not sure about that thing. Mm-hmm. It borrows a lot from the big boy games, but it's sort of like, it wants to simplify it down a little bit, so it's sort of played from a side-on perspective.
Right.
But you do have a little bit of foreground-background control. So you can kind of move in the same way as you do on the normal Batmans, but it's the fighting is... They've tried to pull off the same engine, but it doesn't feel as tight as the full-on free flow.
Okay.
Everything seems a lot slower than it does in the main game, and well, the demo wasn't a very interesting section, to be honest. It's mostly push to the right. Oh, a prompt comes up to use your back hook. Press that, you go there. Oh, I'm now pulling off a grate with the same animation I saw in Arkham Asylum. Now I'm walking through the grate. Now I've come out of the grate. Oh, now I'm pushing to the right and pressing R again to traverse this area. Oh, now there's a fight, and the fight is really boring. And people seem to have a lot of health in the fights. It took a long time for me to finish this crowd. And it's like, none of that is really sounding good to me.
No.
On the plus side, this was my first time using a Vita with any kind of anger. Mm-hmm. It's actually quite a nice thing.
Well, yeah, sure. Should be.
The screen... It was an old Vita, so it wasn't the new design.
Right, so I had that.
The screen was lovely. Yeah. Really nice. And the actual quality of the visuals was pretty good. Even if they were only running at 30, but they still looked quite nice on that thing. So the Vita's still a nice device. Still not sure about the game direction, but, you know... what else we got? Let's get on to some big stuff, shall we? Yeah. So I saw Watchdogs being played. Mm-hmm. It looks pretty cool, has to be said. Like, the seamlessness of everything was kind of neat. Like, there was never a loading pause during the demo.
Oh, okay.
Except for when he died. And then the loading pause was quite long.
Well, that's fairly normal, isn't it?
As it was reverting back to some previous state. At that point, yeah, the pause was quite big.
But otherwise? But
there's still an early build, so they might optimise that at the time. Yeah, but otherwise it seemed quite nice. It sort of reminds me a bit like... So it obviously borrows stuff from Assassin's Creed in places. Yeah. Like some of the traversal animations look awfully familiar. But then the cars and how they drive actually looked a bit Saints Row to me.
Right, yeah. Okay.
So some of that looked a bit like that. But although that's not borrowing, that's not one of their properties. No, of course, but it kind of looks like that. And then the gunplay looked a lot like Uncharted.
Oh. Okay.
So sort of, yeah, that was the bit that sort of caught me by surprise. Weird. It looked sort of...
What, so is there a lot of gunplay?
In this particular demo, that was half the level was was a gunplay. So you had to stealth in, and then something happened, and then you went loud to get out.
Right, okay.
And they also... so it looked quite good. The Uncharted thing caught me a bit by surprise, but that's no bad thing, because Uncharted was kind of okay.
Yeah, it was like, okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite Gears of War, but it was not bad. No,
but it sort of... Yeah, the way the sort of arena where you were fighting was kind of laid out, and sort of just how Aiden moved around the level and stuff like that. You could do some extra things, so you still had access to your phone and its apps to do stuff in the world. Like, so you could activate... They showed activating a blackout, which basically makes everyone really dumb.
Right.
Because, like, you can move around just fine, but everyone else is blind for some reason. You know, because why not?
Sure. You've got to have some kind of weird ability.
Yeah. Well, everything's dark to you, but it's not dark enough that you can't play it. You know what I mean? It's a bit strange. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not sure, actually, when you see it in action, that it's as next-gen as I think... Remember when they released the original sort of reveal of it and everything, and there was these odd little details here and there that made you sort of go, oh, that's really cool. This is definitely... this could well be a next-gen game. And it's like, when you see it in action, you're not so convincing.
More like a current PC game.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that.
Which is basically what every next-gen game kind of is.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into... like my experiences, because I did get some hands-on time with Xbox One. Yeah. And this kind of leads into my thoughts on next gen at the moment. Is like when 360 came out, there was a definite, oh wow, this is a massive step up from the previous ones. I don't have that this time round.
Yeah, well, maybe you don't have that resolution boost, do you, to HD, which is...
No, I mean, but normally there's something to sort of grab me. I mean, things looked better, but not a significant jump better. And maybe that's because I've been spoiled with Battlefield 3 on PC, you know. That's a hell of a good-looking game. Yeah. And basically the consoles will be looking like that now, I guess. So when I see things, it's just like, I've seen this before. So it's not quite as mind-blowing as I would have liked, I guess. No. It's... so Forza 5 on that front... yeah. It kind of is a weird halfway house on how on that sort of aspect, because the cars look phenomenal. Right. Has to be said. The detail in the car. I couldn't find a single flaw in the close-ups of the cars. It's just, they look stunning. But, and this is kind of a large but, the console seemed to be suffering from, or at least this version of it had kind of bad aliasing. Okay. So it looked... there was no AA going on at all, which I was sort of surprised about. I was like, this should look smooth as butter, really. It's not, even some level of AA technique would look better than this. So there was none of it at all, which I was a bit disappointed with. And the demo track was on Laguna Seca. Okay. Which isn't the best looking track ever. There's not a lot going on around the outside, but it did show up what I thought were some... the track didn't look very impressive. Right. That's often been a problem with Forza, I found. Yeah, there wasn't much of a... I mean, the textures weren't bad. I mean, it didn't suffer from the same problem that, hey, I saw GT6 in action, and that basically looked like GT5, repeating textures and all. You look at a stretch of road and you can clearly see where the textures repeat, or on the grass. Didn't have that problem in this. But it did seem to have a really short map range. So if you were looking at billboards on the side of the track, they got low detail a bit too close to you. Right. So they were blurry too early, and it's stuff like that kind of just looked a bit funny. But if you're driving in the cockpit and there's a light bloom effect that's pretty cool, when it comes in through the windscreen, it's that stuff all looks kind of great. So it seems like anything around you and the car is pretty great, but visually everything else, yeah.
But you didn't do the most important driving game test, in-car rain!
Oh yeah, true. We didn't have that option, unfortunately.
So you're obsessed with rain and water on the windscreen.
It's because it's got to look good. Yeah, true. It's got to look good, man. It is a hard effect to do right.
If they're doing in-car, they've got to do good in-car rain.
I wonder if Forza 5 even supports weather. So
yeah. Well, has Forza ever had weather?
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure it has.
That'll be next gen. Next gen weather.
Yeah, that'll be Forza 6, I guess.
Oh. Damn it.
So, yeah, but it plays quite nicely. I have to say, the mechanic, it feels slower, I think, than I remember Forza 2 being. Because don't forget, I haven't really played 3 and 4, so it may have been like this for a while. But the gameplay felt slower. I don't know. It felt like a GT sort of speed, which is probably more realistic if they're doing it, I guess. But I was driving a Ferrari around and stuff like that, and it didn't feel super quick. Right. I like to feel fast in a game like that, but maybe that's... I did see someone driving in sort of R1 class things, those ridiculous Le Mans style cars. Yeah. And then it looked pretty quick. Maybe it's just a matter of perspective. Maybe I took it out of cockpit view and put it on the bumper cam sort of look. Maybe it would look a bit quicker. And that kind of thing. But yeah, it seems to handle very well. It handles quite nicely, but it also showed off the rumble triggers of the Xbox One controller, which were they were rumbling when I was losing grip in my tyres. And it felt weird at first because it's just like I'm not used to this sensation. It's like this is directly in my finger and separate from the rest of what my hand is feeling. Like, you know, when a controller vibrates, you feel it everywhere. When these triggers vibrate, you only feel it in that finger that's on the trigger. But it was kind of cool. It did feel like helpful because I got an extra sense of what was going on in the tyres as you're going around. If I've taken the corner too much, or I'm braking too heavily and the ABS is struggling, you can feel it. It was pretty cool, I gotta say. The Xbox One controller, I'm not sure it's really an improvement over the 360 controller, apart from the D-pad, which, as we sort of alluded to earlier, is also is now a proper proper cross design. Yeah, and is clicky again, probably clickier than the PS4 one.
Yeah. So that's fixed, but otherwise...
Yeah, I like the new D-pad, but otherwise it's weird because it's less curved.
Yeah.
Than the one. It is more of a slab than it was. It's reminiscent of how it felt to the Duke.
Right.
The original Xbox One controller. Well, not the Xbox One, but the original Xbox. That thing. The big one. It was kind of felt like that. I
always liked the Duke, but it wouldn't work.
It was a bit big. It was a bit big.
Yeah. Well, the main problem with it probably was that the buttons, face buttons, were a very strange, like egg-shaped type thing that were uncomfortable.
They weren't the best.
It was good for Halo and PGR, which is all I needed it for at the time.
But kind of okay for Jet Set Radio. But...
Yeah, pretty useless for a beat-em-up, I would have thought.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, yeah, and then the S came out and everyone was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, exactly.
This is much better. So, yeah, I kind of like it. The sticks felt good. They felt like they had a bit more weight to them than they do now. It took a little bit more effort to push them, if you see what I mean. And you could... And the sort of ridging is noticeable that they put on that width on the dimple. It's weird. I didn't think it sort of would make much of a difference, but you do notice it.
Cool.
In a good way. We weren't so sure, Eddie and I, about the placement of left bumper, right bumper now. And that might just be because of our hand shape. Because for me, on the Xbox 360 controller, it's pretty much perfect. I love where those buttons are. But on this one, it felt like I had to adjust to it a little bit more than I perhaps used to. Like my fingers didn't just naturally fall on them. So that may be because it's like being designed for a different hand size, I don't know. And the 360 just happened to be perfect for my hands. But triggers still feel good. Like in terms of position and weight, they're still fine.
Great.
Still better than the PS4 ones. So ultimately, this means I think I prefer the PS4 controller.
Yeah,
has to be said. I think that felt better to me.
That is good news for me because I was definitely leaning PS4 way, and I've never had I had a PS2, but only for Guitar Hero and like San Andreas. But at the moment, I could get San Andreas on PC. I was obviously going that way. But yeah, I mean, if it removes that obstacle of having an inferior controller, that's one thing out of the way.
Yeah,
for PS4.
What was the other thing I kind of noticed about because the way they had it set out in the Forza 5 booth was they had basically everything was the actual Xbox One hardware, so it wasn't running on a dev kit, it wasn't hidden anywhere. It was actually the box was just right there in front of you, and it was you could even see it all. When you looked around the back and stuff, it was actually all wired in and properly done. So it's actually running on the box, so that was reassuring. Like this is a proper demo for once, and it was a lot. I don't know what it was, but the marketing shots and the way it's been filmed in the reveals and stuff make that thing look massive, but it's not really. It's no bigger than a 360. It might even be a touch smaller than a 360,
right?
Because it's not curved in any way.
You mean the classic 360, not the
the classic
S
design? Oh yeah, it's definitely bigger than the S and the whatever the new one is called. Ridiculously S. More S. Yeah, so that's not as big as the one. And Kinect is... I thought Kinect was as long as the console was, new Kinect, but it's not. It's actually quite a lot more svelte. It's actually not that much bigger than old Kinect.
Right.
So yeah, that kind of surprised me a little. I don't know. It's just something about the way the photography of it has been done, or something about the way that thing looks. It just seems bigger than it is, which must mean that the PS4 is actually even smaller than I think it is again, because that thing looks a lot slimmer in photos than the One does. So that must be actually quite a slinky device when you see it. I couldn't see them on the PS4 stand from where I was, so I'm not sure they had them on. I don't think they had them out on the PS4 stand. So the other Xbox One thing I got some time with was Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was pretty good.
Really?
I was somewhat surprised. Actually seems like a legitimately could be good fighting game.
For free or something? Or
Killer Instinct is going to be free to play.
There you go.
But they're going to have a rolling free character access thing. So it's free to play, but you'll only have access to one, maybe two characters for free. And those one or two characters will change, week by week, I think. Right. So you can't really have a character if you're playing free. You've got to learn to be good at all of them during the week, which they're available. If you buy into it, which I think is I think Kiffers was saying it's not a lot of money, like £16 or something, then you get full access to it.
All right, not bad.
So for a fighting game, this seems like a pretty good deal. This may be first access for the initial set of characters, I guess, because it didn't look like the roster was going to be that big. But visually, I thought it was a very nice looking thing. But it wasn't running at 60, unlike most fighting games. It was running at 30, which is a bit strange to begin with. Again, could be an early build thing, not sure. But it was throwing a lot more particle effects than I think I've ever seen in a fighting game before. There was one character that was basically ice. And causing things to shatter around the level, and that looked really cool.
Nice, yeah.
Some neat effects going on. And I was playing against a bit of a... who was a pro... Cat, stop rustling in the box.
Cats and, open boxes full of stuff.
Well, you put stuff in her box.
Yeah.
It was fine when it was just the packing material. Now there's other shit in there and can't get comfy.
Needs investigating. Well, she hasn't sat in it since that one time. Yeah, anyway. Stupid cat. Be gone. So I was playing with this pro who, sort of had... He was a pro at the original Killer Instinct back when that was a popular game. So some of the skills from that seemed to carry over because he was trying stuff. And some of it was working and some of it he was just sort of standing there dozzing around, not doing anything while Pansy hit him. And it's... So he managed to pull off a combo breaker and all that
classic.
stuff. So that stuff's all still there.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
It's like the most famous thing about Killer Instinct.
Yeah. Some of the controls feel a lot more Street Fighter-y. I was playing it on a fight stick as well, so I wasn't used to that.
Okay, so there are fight sticks available for the Xbox One.
There will be Mad Catz fighting sticks, I think. I think they were Mad Catz. Yeah. Anyway, they had them. I was pleasantly surprised that turns out to actually be quite good. But 60 frames per second will do that game a lot of good if they can get that there.
Let's see if they get there.
Yeah. I saw from a distance Kinect Sports Rivals.
That's so funny sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Sports Rivals.
No. I was making a stupid joke. From a distance, Kinect Sports Rivals. Hold on.
I see. Right. From a distance, Kinect Sports Rivals.
That would be awesome. Anyway.
I forget that. Yeah, it'd be interesting what they would do with that. It'd be all archery or something, but archery at people or something.
So yes.
They've gone a weird direction with that. Visually, it's not quite so avatar-y.
All right.
Do you know what I mean? If you remember how...
What's going on with avatars on Xbox One?
I don't know, really. I don't think they really said much. I thought it was just carrying over.
Yeah.
But we haven't really seen it. And it's so Kinect Sports Rivals looked like they sort of... It didn't look very avatar-y. And it looked kind of like... Well, they were just using sort of models of people, generic human-looking guy.
So that's what the new avatars are going to be then?
Yeah, just
that's actually the secret.
Just look a bit more like you, I guess. A bit more human-like. Less caricature-y, I guess, maybe. But the demo I saw running was basically jet ski racing, a la Wave Race. It looks a lot like Wave Race.
Cool. It's always a good way to show off new tech.
Yeah,
Crazy
it
physics.
didn't look bad. It didn't look amazing, but it didn't look bad. And it was the Kinect controls were basically stick your arms out in front like you were using a jet ski and turn them like handlebars.
Right, yeah.
And it would have been nice perhaps if they had implemented some kind of lean mechanic, but they may have done, but no one was really doing it if they were. It looked okay. Couldn't really complain. The controls seemed to work well enough. I didn't see anyone doing an action that the game wasn't responding to, which I suppose is something. But given that, handlebar motion is kind of you kind of have to use 3D sense, I suppose, to figure out what the angle of rotation is for that.
Yep.
So, it's a little bit more complex than, say, a Wii U style control or that kind of thing. Or, Wii control. Or what you could have done before, like hold your hands up and use a steering wheel vertically type thing. So
yeah.
It looked like it was handling that pretty well.
Cool.
So,
the difference in depth between two fists.
Yeah. But yeah, as I say, I saw that from a distance. So that's not a particularly great impression, I suppose. That was the only thing I saw that I think that was using the Kinect at all, though. So even like on the Forza 5 booth where they had all these Kinects obviously attached to the Xbox One, because, that's where they want to show it. It's like they weren't doing anything, they were just there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, it perhaps would have been nice if they had sort of had an option, like as you entered the demo, to do perhaps a head tracking thing. Because I think Forza experimented with that with Kinect.
Oh,
like,
they have their
3 or
weird
4
showroom bullshit.
Yeah, they have
Forza?
done it. Yeah, Forza has the... Do they call it Auto Vista? Or
Yeah,
something?
that crap.
Yeah, they had that
Jeremy
mode,
Clarkson.
and that will be back in Forza 5, but you could sort of use Kinect to do it. But I thought they added a feature so while you're racing, you could sort of turn your head
Yeah,
a
that's something.
little head track. But
That'd be good.
It would have been cool if they'd turned that on, or if they still had it, but it wasn't clear.
That would be cool.
And,
Because track IR is clearly awesome, so if you don't even need to wear a hat,
Yeah.
you're sorted.
And naturally there was no Kinect usage on Killer Instinct either at all. Rise was there as well, but I didn't bother myself with that.
Blah.
They were doing Project Spark demonstrations on a stage, but I didn't catch one of those. So yeah, they were there in reasonable force. I'm still yet to really see an next-gen game that's like, this blows my mind. This is going to be the reason why I want a new console. I'm kind of yet to see that myself. Kippers has played Titanfall.
Right.
He waited 2.5 hours in line, hence didn't fit into my plan exactly, to play a round of Titanfall. It lasted about 10 minutes. So it's like, this doesn't work out. I suppose it's like waiting for a ride at Fort Park, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I felt like when there were other opportunities, I should take those.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah, so he went and played it, and he did come back saying it is freaking amazing. It's like, this may be the system seller.
It's clearly going to be a lot of fun. I'm playing it on PC, goddammit.
Yep.
Can't wait. Me and you in the Happy Salad Guild.
This
Three-man squad as usual.
Yeah,
at this rate, I might end up with both copies because Kippers is probably going to make me buy it on Xbox.
Well, yeah. It might be worth it. Well, it depends how expensive they make it.
Well, you know what? This may give us for the first time, like that argument I mentioned a few weeks ago. Well, probably a few months ago now. We'll finally have some kind of comparison, I guess. It's like I can put the Xbox version toe to toe with a PC version and tell you like how the game feels different.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be cool.
I could be very much wrong, but I bet I'm right.
Yeah.
On all of those theories.
Sure. See how it
I
goes.
stand by them.
Well, I might be able to pipe it to my TV and play it with a freaking Xbox.
Oh, you could do.
controller.
Yeah, but then you'd be playing against keyboard users.
That's true. Then I'd be stuffed.
Yeah. But yeah, he said it was a lot of fun. Pretty great design. It felt real balanced, real tight. And even though it's not due out for a while after launch, he said it felt kind of finished. He didn't find anything really wrong with it.
Yeah, I bet they're just tweaking because that's kind of the key with that stuff.
It's probably like content. Other content is probably where it's what they're doing.
Maps tweaking and stuff. Because they did use apparently they rewrote quite a lot of graphics stuff, but they are using the source engine. It's not like all from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, Kippers did say it wasn't, a visual spectacle.
No, it's not really meant to be, is it? In a way.
But it was just the structure of the game was, and the way it felt and the way it played.
That's the key. That's what's going to
dead
sell
on.
it. Because Call of Duty, to be fair, isn't like the most amazing looking.
No, but it is a pretty tight
exactly.
The mechanics are pretty tight.
So that's the equivalent, yeah.
It's just a bit too fast, perhaps, for internet ping times.
This definitely appeals to me more than Call of Duty. I don't know if it's the sci-fi setting or just the attitude of it, but I couldn't care less about playing COD Blobs, but Titanfall I want to play. Because it reminds me sort of a more polished and fun kind of 2142, sort of.
Not enough vehicles though. I mean, just mechs.
Well, you got the Titans, yeah. But
yeah, Titans technically, but I doubt they'll be actually involved in any of the. Unless they do it. They could theoretically just do like 2142 and have a Titan assault level where you have to go and blow off a Titan by boarding it and shit.
Well,
Titans aren't very big.
Titans in every. No, they're not that big. No. Fair enough. Yeah, no hover tanks.
So they're about, what, a 2-story building high?
Yeah.
But what if there was an Uber Titan? It was just like...
That'd be awesome.
Giant 50
Well, we don't know, yeah.
monster.
Maybe there will be stuff like that.
There could be some crazy stuff.
Let's hope.
I mean, they've already got the jump packs. Maybe they'll have one level with, like, one of those
Shadows
giant...
of the Colossus. Just like, everyone climb this giant mech.
Because 2142 had those flying aircraft carrier things that you had to take. Yeah, Titans. So
they didn't fall. They just exploded.
They sort of fell for a bit, didn't they?
No, they just stopped in midair and exploded, and then everyone jumped off.
Yeah.
Or didn't.
Something like that would be hilarious. Because it's obviously a lot tighter than 2142. You're not going to be stuck in some corner of the map firing like anti-air rockets vaguely at this thing. Or whatever. Like,
that's what I do intentionally.
They're much more cool.
I don't get stuck, man.
That's your plan. Yeah, I know. Anyway, it won't be like that, but, I think it's going to be cool. A nice combo between that kind of stuff.
He also said he caught Dead Rising 3 in action as well. It wasn't playable, but he watched a live demo.
Right. That totally does not interest me at all after the kind of tonal shift from previous games.
This is the thing. Apparently there isn't a tonal shift.
Oh, right.
The demo showed it off as actually still being a fairly comical, humorous game.
Mysterious.
It's just that what we've seen prior to this...
kind of screwed that up.
Sort of doesn't show any of that, yeah.
Weird.
And maybe that's just the section they were showing off, but according to him, it sort of did share a lot of the old Dead Rising feel.
Well, it just seems like in the previous Dead Risings, like the environment kind of made the comedy.
Yeah,
because you were like you were in a fucking shopping mall or a goddamn casino strip or whatever. And like that inherently sort of sets up for like the weird weapon combos and shit. Whereas if you're just in the street, it's just like, well, I'm going to find a tire iron, I guess. It's like that's nothing, not nearly as comedy potential.
I'm going to attach a mailbox to this tractor. I don't know.
and malls are inherently tied to zombies from the classic films, aren't they?
Yeah, maybe it would... Well, I don't know. There may be a mall in Dead Rising 3 that's as big as the entire game of Dead Rising 1. We just don't know. But I'm sure perhaps that you may be right in that there's probably, like, because it's out in the streets, there will be a lot of boring-looking streets. But potentially it gives them the capability of having more variety in terms of the weird places they could perhaps have on those streets, maybe. But then when you put that in perspective, well, a mall has fucking everything, really.
Yeah, it's like a mall is just everything but compacted a lot more. There's there's not just like here's a load of generic houses.
A mall with a casino, perhaps a swimming pool, or I don't know, a gym. That kind of, well, they had like the sports shops anyway. It's just a mall seems like the best place to do this.
Clearly. Anyway, that's that one.
Perhaps they wanted to make it a little more realistic. I don't know, a little more.
Why?
Yeah, he said that looked pretty good. A potential getter. That's pretty much all the next gen stuff we saw between us. They did have Battlefield 4 there, but I think that line was even bigger.
Right.
And they were showing the PC version, and they were showing... well, it looks kind of uncomfortable, because they were trying to organise like relatively big team battles. They had a big old setup there, but you had to stand to play it. They didn't even have chairs, as far as I could see. So it's like... But, I think we know what we're getting into with Battlefield. I think that's going to be a pretty safe bet. That we know everything we need to know about that. Apart from maybe the campaign, which no one cares about. But, yeah. I'll tell you what probably my top pick of the show is, though. I was really impressed with Beyond Two Souls.
Yep.
Graphically, what they're making the PS3 do is nothing short of impressive. It's... yeah, just the detail in the faces, the quality of the animation, it's striking. It's a really, really nice looking thing. It was one of those looks that perhaps I wouldn't have been surprised seeing it running on PS4, that kind of thing. It's a really good looking game. But, and this is my but, it does... The demo they had was basically the bits we've sort of seen in the trailers. So she's running from the cops and she's in that sort of town area and stuff sort of explodes a bit. It was that sequence, really. And it's quite a long sequence. It took you about half an hour to play through this thing. About 20 minutes, actually, play through this thing. And it is just basically one giant QuickTime event. So the way they mask some of the button presses now is if the game goes into a slow-mo sort of cut, you have to sort of press the direction on the right stick that is kind of in line with the way that Jodie is moving. So if she's punching to the right, you need to flick right. If she's moving into something, then you need to push the direction she's moving. Which got a bit confusing. So there were a couple of places where there were doors to open. And one of them was clearly a slide door that slid to the left. So my instinct was to press left to slide the door to the left. But it's like, no. She was moving towards the door. So it wanted me to push up to go towards the door to do that action. So it's like, you've got to kind of separate yourself a little bit, I think, from what perhaps the result would be, and just do what she's doing at the time of the slowdown. Mm-hmm. So that took me a little while to get into the swing of. And then there's the ghost mechanics. So in some sections of the game you can switch to Aiden by choice and then start flying around the level. He can just go through walls, he can go anywhere he wants, and has capabilities to manipulate some of the environment. So the way you start the section is by waking Jodie up by... you sort of focus on an object, and then when you do that, you can sort of pull... in the case of this bit, you pulled down on the sticks whilst looking at a water bottle, and it sort of powered up for a bit, and then you release the sticks, and then it would sort of just go flick and do something in the world. So you kind of go...
Okay.
Sort of like a rubber band. And that sort of... This knocked this water bottle up and therefore waking Jodie up, so she'd be aware of what's coming. And there was sort of an introductory scene on this train where you could go and just annoy people for a bit until the train pulls up at this town and the cops get on, and then you find yourself having to do stuff. And there may have been some options there. It felt like there was perhaps something I could do differently. I just sort of got out of my chair as quickly as I could, and they kind of saw me leaving, but I wonder if I could just sort of play that out for a bit, like, wait, I want to see what if they came to me, that kind of stuff. So it felt like there may have been some choices in the scene that may or may not have been like 100% obvious.
That you didn't know they were there.
Yeah, it's not like it presents itself to you. There was one difference I saw, because I watched a playthrough before I had my playthrough, and there's one bit where you get caught up in a little bit of a ruckus with a dog, the police dog, and you're sort of fending it off. And for this other player, it didn't go down quite so well, so she ended up limping throughout the rest of the scene, which I don't know quite how it would have affected it from that moment on, but for me, I got out of that pretty okay, so I was running around just fine.
Right.
It didn't seem to affect how the rest of the scene played out, but I wonder if it affected things further down the line. Interesting little things like that could be coming into play. And it's like that's the stuff that fascinates me about this. It's like how wide does the diamond spread? It's like it's been rumoured that there are like tens of endings to this thing, like different ways it could all play out, and so yeah, interesting stuff. I think maybe like as I'm getting older, like maybe necessarily like gameplay doesn't have to always be there if I'm having a fantastic narrative experience.
Yeah.
Like maybe like the recent examples of playing things like Bioshock Infinite, Spec Ops, and to a lesser extent Dear Esther, is sort of like starting. Maybe this is appealing more to me as I get older. I don't know.
You might find that actually with Grand Theft Auto if you don't like the gameplay that the story
carries it.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing. I never really had much of a problem with the story on GTA 4. It was kind of interesting, if a bit slow, but
you just got stuck on it.
Yeah, there was just a really shitty gameplay section that I just couldn't do.
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
It's like,
that won't happen this time.
You say that now.
I'm pretty sure. Well, I haven't played through it, but I mean, it just generally seems just slicker on that stuff.
Yeah. So that was my hot pick, I think. I played a bit of that. I also played Sonic Lost World, which, to echo the Penny Arcade phrase, is not complete shit gravy.
Yeah.
I think it's real good, but it's different, is the thing. It's a kind of a different direction for the Sonic series. It doesn't feel like any of the previous ones.
Like Colours or anything.
No, it's not that. Colours was basically the evolution of the Unleashed kind of design, and then they took that perhaps to its logical conclusion in Generations.
Yeah.
So this time they're trying something different, and you play it from a more top-down perspective, and even though you've got analog control, it feels like you've got like more 8-directional control. You'll sort of snap to the layout of the level, which is very blocky. It's very... Okay, let's just get this straight. It is trying to be Super Mario Galaxy, but in a Sonic sort of way. Yeah. So you don't... There isn't really that much to explore. It is still a Sonic game. It's still get through the stage, get to the end, pick up some of the hidden stuff on the way if you want. But the look and the feel is quite similar. There's a sort of a momentum character to the momentum edge to the running as well. So if you're running in a straight line, you can get some speed up quite nicely. But as soon as you turn, if you do a sharp right-angled turn, for instance, you're going to lose some of that speed for a bit. So it does make it easier to control in complex sections. But I did find sometimes jumping up on... the most annoying thing I found was the jumping up onto the end thing, which is one of those classic animal containers from Sonic.
Right.
And just for some reason I couldn't get my jump to go high enough to land on it for a few times. I was just standing right next to it going, come on! That was the only dumb bit of that entire demo. Otherwise I thought it was pretty good.
They should have just redesigned that. They should have just made it, like... If they're going to have this, like, running forwards basic gameplay thing, they should just change those containers so that it's just a giant button on the side and you just run into it.
Yeah, I would have been happy with that, yeah.
That would have been a much easier solution.
Just make them a bit dumpy.
Well, because, they've just had like a giant floating ring for the end of levels for quite a long time.
Yeah.
That you just run into and then it fades out.
Even if that's not contextualised in the world in any way.
No.
So I thought that was fine. I think they're going a bit more gamey with it, maybe a bit more platformy, and the mechanics seem to work out just fine. If it's not, I'd be interested to see how that turns out.
Not shit gravy.
Longest line at the Nintendo booth was Pokemon XY.
What a surprise!
So
still kids in line.
No.
No. Okay.
Unfortunately not.
90s kids in line, but like...
Yeah. Okay, so that still seems like a big deal.
Oh yeah, well...
I can't imagine what you could even do in like a demo of a Pokemon. Because it's like you need to do fucking hours to do anything in that game.
It's true.
You can do like a fight.
Yeah,
that'd be it.
That was probably it. Yeah, it was probably put you in a battle scenario
with the new polygonal
graphics,
dudes.
But then you might as well just watch a video.
True.
They had Mario Kart 8 on show as well, and this is the weird thing about the Wii U. Like, I was trying to explain this, I think, to Kippers the other day. Seeing Ninty stuff in HD is nice.
Yeah, of course.
Like, really nice.
Yeah.
It's like, I know the Wii U isn't as powerful as a next-gen machine. I know it's barely as powerful as an Xbox 360. But Mario Kart 8 HD, quite a lot more detail than before. I'm sold. It looks really nice.
But you're not
sold the game
in the
is
sense
still
of buying a whole console for it.
No, not until Smash Bros. Comes out.
Yeah.
But if Ninty just started releasing more stuff on Wii U, that thing seems fine. Ninty's style combined with just it being HD is probably enough. Just perhaps needs to be a ickle bit cheaper, and there just needs to be more content.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm kind of okay with that thing.
I don't really want a giant tablet controller.
It feels fine. It's not heavy. It's not uncomfortable.
Sure.
The battery life on that thing may be a bit of a problem, because it's like, 3 hours, maybe? Something like before you have to charge it again.
Lame.
Yeah. So getting a Pro controller might be a good bet, if we're going to play Smash Bros.
Well, you're going to need some kinds of controllers if you're going to play Smash Bros.
Yeah. Seeing as the GameCube ones no longer work. Boo. So, I'm going to end on the fact that I have played with an Oculus Rift.
Woo!
And I thought that thing was rad, as Jeff Gersman would say.
Clearly it is rad.
That thing is rad. It took me a little while to get it right on my face.
Okay.
Like, so when I was first wearing it,
So what with
it's
the
sort
glasses,
of...
or?
No, I had to take them off.
Oh, right.
I had to take my
It
glasses off.
supposedly works with glasses, but...
That thing wouldn't have. It would have crushed my glasses real bad. Because it kind of has like a... I don't know, like if you ever wore paintball goggles, that kind of like thing that it needs to rest on your eye socket.
Well, it probably just didn't have the right padding on it. There's probably a version that fits better for glasses or something, I imagine.
Maybe.
So they said it works with glasses.
I mean, let's not forget this is only and this is a very early version of it, so it's like... Well, it's the version they had everywhere at the show, so but it's not going to be the one that gets finally released.
No.
Because the harness felt kind of a bit flimsy. You know, it wasn't the most well-built of things. So yeah, it took me a little while to get it right on my face, because it was sort of sitting too low. It would sort of like, if I lifted it up, then everything suddenly looked great, and it's like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be, but then it sort of sank again. It's like, no. And then you can't see anything. It goes real blurry.
Well, it needs a third one so that you can adjust strap.
Well, it did. It had a strap that went all the way around your head to hold it in place, and then sort of rested there.
Yeah. But what I mean, you need one across the top of your head that you can adjust. You know, like...
I guess, yeah.
Because they have that.
Well, they did have on some versions of
yeah,
that.
I don't think that one across the top actually adjusted. Not on this one.
That's what you need then.
Yeah, I think it had it, but I don't think it adjusted.
You need to shorten that to set it higher up.
Yeah. In the end, we ended up sort of just messing with it for a bit and tightening the string at the back, managed to make it sit in a better place on my face.
Right.
Not the most ideal, but a better place. Good enough for me to be able to see the effect, and it's bloody good. Has to be said. Like, the 3D just really works amazingly well. Mm-hmm. So I was playing this indie game coming up called Montague's Mount that seems to be Dear Esther combined with actually some puzzle mechanics. There's stuff to do. Not that we could figure out any of that shit, because we were just wandering around going, fucking hell, 3D!
Yeah.
I ended up walking in the same building 3 times and not realising until the 3rd time. It's the same fucking place, but 3D!
It's in 3D! Woo!
Yeah, it looks real good. 2 downsides. Actually, I don't know, another upside. I didn't think the resolution was really that much of a problem, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's kind of... It didn't really impact me that much. I thought it looked pretty good regardless. Sure, the resolution will make it better, and it was... You could see pixels, but I didn't think it was that big a problem.
Right.
It would be a problem if you needed something with like pinpoint precision, I guess. But if you're having playing one of these experience games, it's probably ideal.
Right. Yeah.
They did have Surgeon Simulator at the show running on an Oculus Rift, which I didn't get a chance to try, but I really wanted to.
Why is there even to look around at in that game?
Not a lot, but it's just like the hand in 3D might be a benefit.
That's true.
But
only if you could actually control it with your hand, though. Because then you'd basically just you'd be awesome at that game then.
Apparently, they have a version of Surgeon Simulator set up to use one of those Razer Hydras and an Oculus Rift, so you can use it two-handed.
Nice.
It sounds insane. It'd be really cool if you could start doing scalpel tricks in the game. Anyway, so one of the bigger problems, and this is something they need to iron out really, is that there was just that little bit too much lag between you moving your head and the game reacting. Mm-hmm. Enough to make it really disorientating, which is the second problem. The disorientation of wearing that thing is high. Yeah. I mean, I've never had a problem with 3D. I've always been okay. I'm not one of these people that has all the motion sickness crap that's associated with it. Yeah. But this makes you feel woozy. Yeah. Really woozy. I was playing it while standing up. Yeah. Whilst using an Xbox controller and to move around. And I could feel my body leaning involuntarily. Yeah. Like, it was making me want to do things that just weren't that there was no reason to do so in the outside world, but what I could see was making me do it.
Did they have buckets on standby?
No, not on this stand, but...
Well, you'll just have to get one of those Omni-track... whatever the fuck those called. Omni...
They had one of those there, and someone was playing
treadmill.
Half-Life 2 wearing an Oculus Rift on an Omni treadmill. That thing looks weird, and again... The lag between him making a step and it acting in the game seemed a bit too high.
Well, it's because it doesn't really detect steps. It detects when your foot passes through the beam on the downstroke, so it's not really actually...
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Is that how it works?
Or, well, I don't know about an actual beam or whatever. There's a... it's not detecting the actual contact, because there's no actual computational... The shoe isn't special, it's just a shoe.
Yeah.
So there's no actual computation there, it's just detecting the movement along the surface.
Yeah.
So it's not actually that precise.
Yeah, the lag seemed a bit too much. They were just doing, I only saw him doing physicsy stuff, so I'm not sure how that would even work during combat. But it was an interesting looking thing.
Was he playing catch with dog or something?
No, it was one of the earlier segments where you're using the gravity gun to move boxes around, stuff like that. Yeah, it was a cool looking thing. They also had the CCP space flight demo there on the Virgin Media booth with an Oculus Rift, but the queue for that was pretty long as well. And Oculus even had their own stand with a big old queue, like a massive queue actually for that, which had things like the roller coaster demo and stuff that people go on about, and they have the Kickstarter backers all got that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think that's a really, really cool thing. I'm really interested to see where that goes, and I kind of hope they do good stuff with it, because there's a lot of ways they could make crap stuff with it, but if used for the right game, that thing could be amazing.
Always had promise, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the moment I heard about it, I thought, yes, finally. This actually makes sense.
You know what, even if it doesn't do the head tracking on some stuff, even if it's just a really, really good 3D monitor, just on your face, that 3D effect is better than anything else I've seen, because it's doing...
Because it's on your
properly
face.
Isolated one image to each eye.
Yeah.
And that makes it just makes a hell of a difference. Compared to even very, very good polarized or
shuttered
glasses. Yeah, it's just the best I've ever seen.
Right.
So Oculus Rift, whoop whoop. And that's pretty much all I did at EuroGamer.
Cool.
It's a pretty cool show.
How are we doing?
You could probably easily do... I could go back for another day and do the big things easily. And do some more of the stuff, say, at the Ninty booth. The Ninty booth was really cramped, actually. It was a really nice booth, but it was just tiny.
Yeah.
Like they had the new Donkey Kong game there as well, which I didn't really pay much attention to. But just around it, they'd put wood flooring down around the Donkey Kong for some reason to make it look all sort of like tropical, I guess, and stuff like that. So they put some real effort into that booth. But they had a big old retro area there as well. But I couldn't find any pinball. I was disappointed. Apparently there was going to be pinball there, but apparently there wasn't pinball there. Like it didn't turn up or something.
Yeah, it got cancelled last minute.
So yeah, it was a bit disappointing. But I did play R-Type on a turbo graphics for no reason at all. Because I'd never picked up a turbo graphics before.
Sure. Well, why not?
They had like an Amiga there and everything. It's cool. But yeah, you could easily spend a lot more time there and have a good old time of it. And then we went to Byron Burger.
Well, I have to head to the EuroGamer thing next year, I think.
Yeah, I might check it out.
Yeah.
There were a number of games I didn't see. Like, I didn't see Assassin's Creed, which was supposedly there. I didn't see even where that was.
Can't have been too far from Watchdogs, right?
No, it must have been upstairs somewhere. In the over 18 area. I didn't see Hotline Miami 2.
Right.
Which was supposedly there.
That's quite indie, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
It's just the same, so I hear. That'd be cool, though.
Yeah, it'd be interesting what the narrative is this time.
I think they're putting a lot of effort into that. They got in a bit of a controversy over one of their scenes they included in it.
Yeah, I heard about that.
But that's been kind of resolved somewhat, supposedly, so that's good.
I'm trying to. I didn't see like the Ninty booth supposedly had that ridiculously titled Scram Kitty and his buddy on rails, and I kind of wanted to see what the fuck that was. But yeah, wasn't able to catch that. They did have an indie area, but I didn't really get enough time to go and have a look through that. It was basically like a really tiny sort of set of area, a really tiny area that Sega had set up, and just crammed a load of people in there. It was a really tight little area. Didn't really get a chance to wander around there with any detail. Eurogamer over.
Cool.
Someone else talk about Valve.
That's half the point of the podcast. So the other point was Valve. So Zach, I think you better take it away.
I haven't been paying that much attention.
Have you not?
No, because once I vaguely read the reposted news stories. Well, apart from the controller, I went and read the actual page.
Well, that's the one I care about.
So because it's like SteamOS there.
Step one.
I mean,
a Linux fork for gaming. That's cool.
That might still be, I mean, there's, the whole the idea of having the OS, and then obviously they combine that with the idea that they're making a box, like a hardware box for living rooms or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think, potentially SteamOS still might even be good for dual booting on regular PC.
Absolutely. Totally.
We were talking about this earlier, because it's specifically when they mentioned that they've supposedly done some stuff to reduce hardware latency in certain areas to make some things more performant. It's like, okay, tell me more.
And if they've got an API that's like, even close to as good, even now, as like DirectX or whatever, for getting down to the metal of the graphics, then you could get better looking games than currently.
This is the thing. You don't... On a PC, in the PC, you don't really want to go down to the metal in the same way that you do on a console. Because
if you can get more...
True, but the differences between NVIDIA and they mean just having to target more platforms to get it working on a single platform.
Yeah.
It's like, you're having to target various different editions of GeForces, the various different editions of Radeons.
But that must be what Steam or Valve are trying to facilitate, right?
Maybe, but that's what DX does.
Well, sure.
That's I think it's incredibly... I don't get me wrong, I totally see the intention here, I just think it's an incredibly difficult thing. I mean, almost infeasibly difficult thing to provide a nice way to do. Because that's why things like OpenGL and DX exist.
That seems to be the focus, though. I mean, that's kind of the point of the whole thing, in a way. But,
any Valve game has always been powered by OpenGL.
Yeah, so...
OpenGL. Or DX. Like, Team Fortress is DX powered, Left 4 Dead is DX.
Yeah, but it runs fine on Linux without DX, doesn't it?
Presumably they're using OpenGL.
Yeah.
I feel that's a step too far. I doubt that's what they've done. They're probably just leveraging OpenGL, and they've done stuff at driver level to do this.
Yeah, you're probably right. They
probably allowed NVIDIA and Radeon a slightly better way of writing drivers that hook into the OS that don't need to deal with any of the sort of Windowsy stuff.
Well, if anything else, you might just get some RAM. Because it's like you won't be using 2 gigs for Windows.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
You'll definitely get more RAM. It's like, the dual booting thing is interesting. I don't think we're going to get away from Windows as a necessary platform for a very long time, just because of the DX thing.
And you need it for, non-game things.
Yeah.
Work.
Well, yeah, sure.
They're not going to make SteamOS have, a word pad.
Well, that's one of the things I kind of worry about. When you're using Windows, we run a Mumble client, we do that kind of stuff, we play games kind of like that.
Half that stuff you could probably do on Linux, though, for example. Mumble, for example.
Yeah.
You'd probably do sudo apt-get install Mumble, and you're probably there.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not saying that there'll always be something.
Yeah.
There'll always be a moment where you come across and it's like, oh shit, I'm going to have to boot to Windows to do that.
Yeah. Absolutely. At least for us, because we're so used to it. But I think, actually, that, Zach might actually be okay 50% of the time using SteamOS, because you'll get a really nice browser, like Chrome latest or whatever. You'll get a really nice, probably IRC client, and a really nice, chat client or whatever. And you probably could go fairly far with just Linux. And then if it then ran all your games really nice. Well, it won't run all your games. It's initially.
And don't forget, there's always the stuff that's out of Steam. So like Guild Wars won't be there, Origin won't be there.
So it won't be super convenient.
Anything on Uplay won't be there. So I don't think we'll ever see Ubisoft stuff.
Well,
go down that road.
They're on Steam, so you know
they're on Steam, but they have their
own
service, and I think they sort of said in the SteamOS announcement that stuff like
that wouldn't work.
That wouldn't work. Games for Windows Live isn't going to work.
Well, that was related to the family sharing.
Oh yeah, true.
But anyway,
they didn't really specify it about SteamOS. So, I mean, SteamOS is like early days.
It is early. That's the thing.
Which is why this announcement is actually weird, because it's like, we haven't actually announced anything.
Well, it's not out
We've
yet.
said we've got an idea.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting to pull an Apple, or an early Apple, and sort of
There's
say...
a 300-person beta at some point.
You can't get SteamOS yet.
Right, yeah. Okay.
And there is a 300-person hardware beta happening before the end of the year. For which I hope you've all signed up for.
No.
I have.
Anyway, so I think that's all very encouraging. And then the hardware is from various vendors, right? But there will be a...
It will be licensed out. They haven't really confirmed or denied that there's going to be an official one. There's 3 variants of the current Steam machines, as they're called.
But you'll certainly be able to build your own.
Yeah. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. I would be interested... I still... Prior, when Steambox was first announced, I still want to know how they're tackling the performance thing, because when it's an interesting issue, like performance on a PC, because with a console you can pretty much guarantee that it's going to run the same on every version of that console. Like an Xbox 360 game is going to run the same on every Xbox 360, with the possible exception of GTA 5 crazy installation things. But the Steambox doesn't have that.
No, but it's like a PC. It is a PC.
Yeah, but for a consumer living room, unless you know what you're doing in terms of performance, that's going to be outside of most people, or a lot of people's knowledge range. Because that's the sort of... There are a lot of people out there who don't know how a PC works inside, who don't understand how the specs of a PC add up to gaming speed. They buy an Xbox because it's an Xbox. Surely it does this.
Surely that's the whole point of there being specific versions that they get.
Yeah. But here's the problem. It's the classification of what games run well on what system. This is the crux of the matter. They need some kind of Windows index, to sort of say, hey, this box is rated a 7.5, and you can run games up to a 7.5.
Yeah.
Well, they could just build that into Steam. They could just make it like
I'm just saying they need
compatibility list. Have it like games rated for compatibility for the different Steam boxes, so they don't appear on the other.
All
Steam
I'm
boxes.
saying is that they need a system like that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I'm not saying how they're going to do it or anything like that. I just think they're going to need a system like that to make this thing a viable alternative to a console.
Yeah, I think that's true, because it becomes extra confusing when you've got this genius extra feature of SteamOS, which is you can have a thin client that streams your game from your big fat Windows gaming PC. In which case you could have a crappy machine that couldn't play a game to save its life, and you could still have it in the living room.
Yeah, for me, that stuff is the most intriguing part of this whole conundrum.
Is because you still refuse to run a cable 20 feet around your room.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's running a fucking cable. I don't like running cables. I've already got 5 of them running around the outside of the room. And a DVI cable isn't exactly thin.
No.
And it'd be a really long DVI cable.
Not really long.
And I've got to get... And an audio cable as well to get to the stereo.
Can you run one HDMI cable?
Yeah, do audio over HDMI.
Maybe, but I can't get audio over HDMI into my app.
Oh,
That's true. Your app is well old.
My app doesn't support that.
Okay.
Your app barely supports what's going on at the moment, and it might be screwed on next gen as well.
No, because the next gen consoles have optical, and that's how I power my 360 and PS3's sound. So I'll be okay.
But how many opticals do you have? 2?
Yeah, well, I'd have to replace something under my telly anyway.
Can you get optical out your sound card?
Yes, but running an optical cable is even more awkward because it doesn't bend.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway,
yeah, either way, the stream. I like the idea of this streaming box. It's like if it's really latency free somehow, that could be great. Playing Devil May Cry on my couch sounds like a great idea.
Well, over 6 feet, it should be pretty latency free.
Well, the encoding delay is probably going to be the problem.
Yeah.
I'm just really fascinated to see how that's going to work.
We shall see. So the third part of the announcement, Zach.
Yeah, it was
Some
a hilarious controller.
Mysterious controller of that looks like an owl. Sort of.
Not really.
Two big
I
owls.
don't know what everyone's going on about with these
owl.
various like memes and pictures.
What are the memes? I haven't seen them.
No, I haven't seen that many, but there's been a few of like, you know, it just looks like eyes, and so people have been photoshopping actual eyes. Which is not actually that great.
It does look fucking nuts.
I don't know. It looks fine.
Yeah, I don't
Fucking
know.
nuts.
Well, my main problem with it is, well, because I read a ton of goddamn internet comments, and it's like the number of people who are like, "Oh my god, those face buttons are so useless because you can't reach them both at the same time because you have
You're
to."
not supposed to.
It's like there's like 6 or 7 goddamn buttons on the back just because they haven't shown a picture of the back to show you where all the other buttons are. People are like, "I'm never going to be able to use this because I can only reach 2 buttons."
Fuck darts, anyway.
I don't know. I think it's a horrible thing. Like, my impression is I don't think that shit's going to work at all.
I think it could be cool. I trust Valve.
Yeah,
It's worth a try.
I don't think it's going to replace sticks. I don't think those trackpads are better than a stick.
Well, that's the whole point of making it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, the whole
I
point of
don't buy
making it is for it to not be a stick or a mouse.
Yeah.
I
To be
don't,
something else, and then maybe if it's better than one of those two, then success.
I don't buy it because touch controls on iPad or iPhone or any equivalent of those, anything, any type of control scheme that anyone's come up with for those things has just not been good.
It's supposed to have mysterious haptic crap, hasn't it? I don't know.
When I read that, and I was like, oh man, they're using the word haptic again, and I was like, what does haptic actually mean?
Well,
And so I went to look it up, and it was like, the
physical
definition of
feedback.
haptic is the sense of touch. It's like, that is the most generic word you could possibly have.
But it means like when they use haptic touch to define the feature on smartphones that when you activate a function on the touchscreen that the thing vibrates in a certain way to make it feel like you're actually pushing something physical.
Or
Yes.
it presses
Like this-
back from the part that
Not
you
actually,
touch.
not actually, like, that's just what haptic means now, but it's not actually what haptic
No,
means.
no.
No.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think like vibration under the touchpad.
It's
thing.
not like a rumble.
Well, no,
thing.
it's not like
something
rumble, but it's not.
else.
If you're going, I think the only way you could do or not the only way. I mean, this might work, but I like the way that I think it should actually work would be to have like it needs to actually have feedback against the direction you're pushing, like a stick.
Yeah. Which we can't really do that.
Precisely my point. Use a fucking stick.
But I think it could. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't use one, do you?
No, true. I could use a wireless
'Cause I mean-
Xbox controller.
the way I was thinking about it is like maybe it could be like the not rumble or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
The way that could do that sort of feedback would be have it like it gets stronger the further away from centre you are.
Yeah.
So it's just an assistance to help you recenter the
So
virtual
what
sticks.
if the track pegs had underneath them like a giant, I don't know, joystick that was kind of like concave. So when you're resting in the middle, your thumb is kind of in the middle of this concave thing. So as you push out towards the outside,
They already are concave.
No, but bear with me. That you're then pushing this stick under the rubber that then gives you something to press against. So the more you're moving away from centre, the more you're moving this concave.
Well, yeah, they could do like if it wouldn't have to have very much travel. In fact, it would
not
almost be like the
necessarily,
3DS Circle Pad. Because it's like a flat slide.
Oh, you mean
left and right.
like the old PSP nub?
I thought.
Yeah, apart from better.
I thought because
Yeah.
this was a touchpad, it would allow you to do what you can't do with a joystick, where you can like track like lifting up a mouse.
Yeah.
But then
I think it will let you do that as well.
yeah.
But for like dual
you can
stick
turn around like
for
this.
games that are gamepad designed that are dual sticky stuff, I think that's where the problem lies.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll just have a centre point and then you slide. When you
even-
lift
and
off, it
even-
recenters, presumably.
And even then, I'm just worried
Yeah.
about where you then start from. It's the return to centre.
Well, that's why they're bowl-shaped, surely, because then you're automatically
I-
leading your thumb to the centre.
See, I don't think that's going to be as easy as just when you let go of a stick, you can rest your thumb back on it anywhere without having to go precisely in the middle to be precisely in the middle.
Well,
You
it's
can
a
just
dead
rest it
zone
back.
thing then, because it's just configurable, surely.
I just don't think it's going to be very good.
Well,
I think it's an alternative.
we'll see.
And it may work well enough to sort of enjoy some FPS games on easy mode, but as a replacement for a proper controller for games that use sticks, I don't buy it. I don't. at this point, I'm very, very sceptical.
Fair enough. We just have to wait until we get our asses kicked on Titanfall by all these people with these ridiculous futuristic controllers of doom.
As long as it doesn't cost too much, that's the other thing. If it's like £100, fuck that.
Nah, it'll be like £60, I think.
That's probably still too much.
Yeah, with the fact that it's got a built-in touchscreen.
Yeah.
That's actually a screen.
Yeah, that's a screen, yeah. Well, did they
described
say it's actually a touch screen, or is it just like it has 4 sensing zones? Because that seems more...
I think they said it was a touch screen. But then again, I've also heard people describe the PS4 controller's touch area as a touch screen.
Which it isn't, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Maybe they'll sell it with like bundled Steam points or whatever. So you have to spend them within Steam, but...
Oh, what? So it just gives you wallet money?
Yeah, like
Hey,
say...
buy this and we'll give you like
buy
as
this
a promotional deal or something. It's like, buy a Steam controller, we'll give you like an extra 20 quid in Steam wallet to spend on Game Happy Games.
I don't think they can do that though, because in your Steam wallet it's actual cash.
I know, but they can.
They could.
Yeah.
Or they'll just throw in a token or something like when you redeem this code. They'll give you a code or something in the box. It's like, hey, get a copy of Rogue Legacy or something.
Well, they could just give you vouchers. Be like, more,
work,
maybe more broad vouchers than the vouchers they normally do. Maybe like 50% off anything rather than 33% off this game you don't want.
I don't know. That stuff would be tricky to work out with publishers, but
that's true.
So is there an ETA on this thing hitting retail? Like next year?
No. The controller they haven't really been forthwith with in terms of like,
presumably
release.
you could use the controller with a PC right now if you had it and the firmware.
Yeah,
presumably, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, let's hope it comes out.
But yeah, and the only thing we've shown of it were like computer renders. They haven't shown an actual thing.
Yeah,
they showed a disassembled computer render.
In the same way that we haven't seen SteamOS properly, and we haven't seen Steam Machine, any of the prototype Steam machines. But
it all sounds fairly promising.
Yeah, it may be a little way off. Is the thing. I think SteamOS is due early next year, or before the end of this year, even.
Right.
Steam Machine as a full product could be miles away.
Yeah.
Controller could be miles away. Unknown.
Cool.
The controller seems like potentially the easiest part.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, probably like the drivers for it is probably the hardest part.
Well,
the actual making a controller part of it is probably not actually that difficult.
Well, they might release it with like only a driver for SteamOS at first, and then make Windows. If they make a Linux driver, presumably it would run on any version of Linux anyway. But
they showed of their idea of like the driver interface of it basically joy to key. Like you can set anything to do anything, and it just registers it as a mouse input for the trackpad.
Well, yeah, presumably for games that don't have controller support.
Yeah, but I mean,
if it was a game like Meat Boy or something that had controller support, then Meat Boy, God, I don't think that's going to fucking work on a trackpad.
The only hands-on I have read of this thing was the guy who made Super Meat Boy, and he came away really impressed. He was doing like advanced bandages with it and stuff.
Well, why wouldn't Meat Boy work? Because Meat Boy is basically digital. You don't even need to worry about how far you're pushing the stick.
Well, so I suppose maybe if you clawed...
That's why I play it on the keyboard.
I suppose maybe if you clawed your hand over it, I don't know, the thumb travel just feels like it would be even more fucked.
You can make
your
the dead
thumb
zone
even
super tiny
massive.
and just go...
No, I don't know.
But yeah, check that out. There's a whole
less.
write-up from the guy that made Super Meat Boy.
Or if you wanted to, you could just play it with buttons and not even use the trackpads. Just use the trackpad buttons as left and right, and then actual buttons for jump.
So yeah, he talks about his control setup.
That might actually be better.
Yeah.
Let's just use them as giant buttons.
He talked about his control setup and how he asked them to tweak it in the drivers for him, or in the setup program thing, and explained how he used it to play Super Meat Boy and stuff. So that was quite an interesting blog article. So
well, that suggests. Well, that's raised another thought in my head that maybe this to get this thing to work in a sort of maybe there is a personalisation step with it.
Possibly.
But that sounds wrong to me.
What sort of personalisation?
As in, there is a certain for each game. Maybe there's a certain level of tweaking you need to do to get it into a nice state for you.
Well, I'm sure you have like a default that you do set up initially using some kind of calibration that like makes it so you can fiddle around with the dead zone.
Yeah,
without
but
it
I
being
get the
game
impression that
specific.
maybe for certain games like Meat Boy, for instance, compared to something that is truly analog, you may need potentially different setups to make it work in a nice way. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think that's necessarily much of a problem. People already use fucking Joy to Key and Auto Hotkey and all these other weird programs to reconfigure controls where it's not even legitimate.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the guy was saying that like people keep asking him how he did like the physics in Super Meat Boy, and he just explained that he has to explain that it's all one giant hack because every single like timing and every single like acceleration or movement is all like completely hand tuned to what he felt was right and nothing to do with actual physics.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really interesting.
That's probably how a lot of physics, like for those sort of games, comes together. Just impulse at the end of the day, isn't it? Yeah. It's like not that difficult a thing to model. But hell, I wrote one of those in Games Factory. Sort of.
Didn't we all sort of?
Well, I didn't use direction calculator, did I? I wrote a sort of an XY momentum thing that was a bit dodgy at low speed, but it didn't do it properly. It wasn't like proper vector math, but it sort of worked.
Well, that was always our standard test procedure from trying to make micro machines movements.
Oh yeah.
How many of those did we make?
No.
Quite a lot.
Yeah.
You tried
We had
making...
some okay ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then micro machines movements that span off into this isn't enough like micro machines, so let's make it a different thing. Like your track car movement and the hovercraft game.
The hovercraft game, where you have its own track editor and everything. Yeah. That was like my continuation of Bonus Rally into a full game.
Yeah.
I thought the My Little Micro Machines one ended up pretty good as well, until you decided to pull donuts and then you could fuck it up.
Yeah. And then I had my one, which was direction calculator, but I had my own like weird compensation to make it feel more like micro machines.
Yeah.
What was that stupid hovercraft game called? It had some dumb name that John came up with or something, didn't it?
I just remember it being called Hovercraft.
That was
Yeah,
what the fire
that's what the file was
called.
called. Yeah. Anyway, never mind.
I'm sure we'll find out in the future on a video.
Indeed. Shall we not talk about what we've been playing and like wrap it up?
Well, unless there's any like things that you think aren't going to be important enough to take up our time next time, because with our constantly going over schedule as we do.
No.
Well, we've got 5 minutes. We might as well fit in a little bit.
We've got more than 5
Yeah, I know,
minutes.
but I was saying 5 minutes so we don't have to spend all this time.
Okay, well, let's just rattle through what we've been playing and we can make a decision. I've started The Last of Us. That's the only thing I really have
Yeah,
to
you're
talk
going to need
about.
more time to talk
I've got
about
more
that.
GTA.
And you're going to need more time to talk about
Yeah.
that. And all I can talk about this very briefly because it probably won't be important, but I went back to play some Open Transport Tycoon because I realised I hadn't played that for a while and I was like, what's going on with that?
Oh yeah, that was at EuroGamer as well. Transport Tycoon on
iPad edition, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like
New
Transport
graphics.
Tycoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what happened in Open Transport Tycoon is, well, the last time I was playing it, it was basically the game, but now they've finished doing the open source part of it, so you no longer need any of the original files.
Oh, cool.
So all the graphics and all the sound and all the music are now open.
So you can download it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the same old graphics or have they replaced it
They've
all
replaced
piece by
them all.
piece?
They replaced them all, but it looks pretty much the same.
Oh, okay.
In terms of style.
Yeah, it's a style. They've kept it stylistically the same, but sort of improved it
Right.
for detail in places.
Only slightly.
Yeah.
It's not like where you can if you want to. You can go and get like the high resolution packs where the actual pixel density goes up, but that just is crazy. I want some pixel art. So yeah, there's that. I've been playing that. So
Great.
I'm trying to relearn how the fuck to even make train networks. Because it's still... You can still make unnecessarily complicated things. And they've even...
That was one of the coolest things about that game.
Well,
though.
yeah.
You could make really stupid shit.
It was always funny how, like, you had cars, planes and boats, but those were all completely irrelevant. You never ever used them for anything at all, because trains just had such better capacity for a start.
Did you have to use trucks to get started? Or...
No.
No, alright.
Now what you do is, well, the typical way to start a game in Transport Tycoon is find a coal mine that's relatively close to a power plant and then just run that line,
Link
and
them
then you're
together.
done. That will give you enough money to do everything else from then on.
Sweet. Just keep regenerating the map until you find it.
Well, you don't even have to regenerate it. Although that's the other weird thing that is actually better in Open Transport Tycoon. They also did quite a lot of improvements to the map generation algorithms,
Right.
So you can configure those more varied and more realistic,
Cool.
rather than just random. Although the problem I have is they haven't given you enough options for low on number of cities and number of industries, it's still way too many.
Right.
It's just like every bit of the map is just filled with random industries and towns all over the place. So luckily they include, for towns you can have custom, so I just put in a number that I think is good for the size of the map. And then for industries, or you can, really, if you're going below low, you have to turn it on to founding only, where you have to pay to found the industries.
Oh, that's cool.
Which takes quite a lot of cash, so you have to run like a decent passenger service for a while to build up like the capital to do it. But not for too long. So then it's like, now the map is completely clear. But then that's sort of a bit easy mode in itself, because it's like you can just put the industries where you want.
Where you need them, yeah, and run them. You could put them next to each other, though.
And that doesn't really necessarily mean, like, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
What you need is
there might not be a cold.
you need the resources to be in place.
There's like a subsetting of that option where you can make it so that when you're founding primary industries like coal and ore and stuff, you don't get to choose the location, it just spawns one.
Oh, that's cool.
But then you can still choose the location of like the secondary industries, like the steel factories and
the
stuff.
Coal, the power plant.
That makes more sense.
It's good, but it's, even just being able to set the position of the steel mill or whatever is still that's quite a lot of effort out of the way.
Next to it, yeah.
Or just put it as far away as possible to get the maximum cash.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, there's that.
Right, cool.
Well, those mechanics are always dumb anyway, the distance mechanics, but...
Well, actually, in Open Transport Tycoon, with all these complicated rail networks and stuff, you more just need the space so that you have enough space to build all these ridiculous junctions and stuff. You don't really care about the cash implications.
So if that thing is open source, is all the code like on GitHub? Can you just go read
Probably,
it?
I think so.
That's cool. I'll check that one out. It's all in C, I guess. No, it's in assembler, isn't it? Because Chris Sawyer's insane.
Well, I don't know if they rebuilt it.
Yeah, they probably did.
They probably ported it. Yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, there's that. And anything else I've been playing that I could fit in? There's Guild Wars, but we haven't played that. No. we tried to, and then I had to go and do some other stuff.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I haven't been playing it that much. It's been the last two updates, the updated Super Adventure Box, which I mentioned last time, have been crap, and then the update following that is not actually much of an update, so there hasn't been much impetus for me to go back in there. Oh, and I finished the September monthly, so I don't even have to worry about that.
Cool.
For a few days.
Yep, for a few more days, and then it'll be October. Get grinding. Babies. Get grinding those babies, apparently.
Okay.
So that's that. I think that's everything much of important that I've been playing. I'm sure I'll think of more stuff after this, and then I'll have to talk about it next time. I won't have time.
Okay. I think that might...
We'll let you go first next time.
No, because I play the less important things, unless I do play something important, and then I might go first.
Exactly. Is that going to do it for our supplementary podcast? Thanks for joining us. Catch us next time for all of that we just described. And Rob now has to go and find the stop button because it's not going to cut off automatically like normal.
We've got enough time to actually say goodbye next time.
So,
it's not going to be bye-bye.
Or not even.
So, goodbye, listeners. Catch you next time.
Bye this week. The number got cut off last week.
Bye.